So two questions are before us. One is to do with an idea about physical hormones which affect possibly moods and various other things like that. And the one school of thought may say that there are hormone replacement therapies, for example, and various chemical means of controlling the psyche in general, actually. And then the other question will be, attention is like a probe, and we gain knowledge through this, but Brahman is the source of knowledge, or Brahman, it is through Brahman that we know. So is there some kind of difference in these? How do we align these two statements? I think that's the summary of your two questions. Well, firstly, we have to understand from the yogic point of view what the difference is between brain, body, mind. So what we call, and if you study the Taittiriya Upanishad, we come across this concept of koshas, sheaths. We go from the outside to the inside, something like Russian dolls. You take off the outside, there's another one, you take off another one, and so it goes on, until ultimately you find you can't go any further. The discovery of the Atman, or the divine self, will be exactly like that. It'll be the elimination of what is not perpetual, what is not perfection, in other words, the thing that is not affected by space or time. Space gives us demarcations, and time gives us sequences. So we call this mind the antarakarana, and there's a debate whether the mind is the brain or whether it is not the brain, and this is a false argument because both are material. Mind is subtle matter. Matter is gross mind. When we study Vivekananda's Raja Yoga, that's one thing he points out very clearly. And all he's doing is pointing out the position of the yogis. And the yogis are taking their position from the Upanishads. So that's the sequence. So the Upanishads will be our authority on this. And yoga is a way of expressing how do we do it? What is the practical dimension? What is the implementation of a principle? And in the Vedanta, there are only three principles. They're difficult to grasp because our experience isn't commensurate with it. There's only one existence, and that is Brahman. Brahman alone exists. Nothing else is there. There's a supreme absolute. That alone is existent. Secondly, when we research and look for the fundamental essence in ourselves, the thing, the datum beyond which we cannot go, that steady thing which reflects perfection. What do we mean by perfection? Well, perfection by its very nature can't have anything filled up or improved upon. It can't evolve, it can't change, it just stands alone. Anything other than that would be trying to get to that state of perfection. So it must be beyond time, beyond space, beyond causal relationship. And of course, the causal relationship requires two units. One is one state called cause and another called result. And so how can any two be arranged? Well, they can be arranged in sequence, in which case, in parallel, as it were, a kind of horizontal arrangement, in which case there has to be a demarcation between cause and result. And that's called space. That environment is space. Or you could put them, if you put them adjacent, that's how it is. Or you could put them in a kind of sequence, one following the other, which means that it is reliant on time. So perfection is beyond causal, any causal framework that you can imagine, whether you put it in space or time. And by its nature, it must be non-dual. So from that point of view, when we talk about attention or any other thing, all the instrumentation is only one with that Brahman, but when we add a causal relationship, space and time namely, then it looks like something different and we're caught up in that. And for practical purposes, that's where we stand. So there is a disparity between the principle of oneness and whether it's the Atman or whether it's Brahman, the same thing, and the principles and the actual practice of realizing that. So in terms of that, we have to understand that if we are the Atman, then we are also a witness. And so one of the first disciplines we can have is to see not, there is attention and so on and so forth, but where is the attention going to? Even in meditation, as I pointed out some time ago, even Ramakrishna would have said, oh, I was meditating, and my mind wandered to Risik's place. So the important thing is, he is a witness of something wandering, something that is not overall the Atman. And yet, if the Atman or Brahman, same thing, is all, then how can we reconcile these two positions is a good question. Well, you see, the two cannot exist together at the same time. If you stand in the absolute of Brahman, all the relative world has gone. And if you stand in the relative world, then the absolute is a distant thing. So we are in the relative world. This is the third principle in the Vedanta, that everything is mithya. Everything is a kind of apparition, and we know the structure of it. The framework of it is time and space and causation. And so we have to use what we have. We have to use time and space and causation to transcend it. And on the other side is divine grace pulling us. When we remove the obstacles, it's fully revealed, just as when the cloud sits in front of the sun and moves on, we don't have to make any effort. We don't have to blow constantly or send a spacecraft up. Please, can you remove this cloud? Can you shift it on, please? You're obscuring my view of the sun. Or the moon is there, you see, and the clouds are moving along. Of course, we make the mistake, the moon is moving. No, it's not. It just looks like that. Or we can make a more simple example that, and I know you've been through Storm Amy, you see. So trees are blowing, branches are blowing, leaves are blowing. Well, if you have a small vista only and don't see that there's a commonality everywhere, you may assume, well, there are independent entities that are moving, called trees. And then you go out and investigate and you'll find your hair is also moving. But it's quite clear something is moving, the hair and the trees and the branches and so on, everything. Then you look, oh, all the branches are moving because there's a big storm. So this mithya is what we are caught in, and the whole of the spiritual practice, shifting our attention, because our attention is part of the instrumentality, and the instrumentality of the mind. And so by shifting our attention, we make a discovery. But also, there is another thing, and that is, in order to do that in a transcendent way, we have to shift our attention toward things which are joyful. There's a reason why humans have a very long period of adolescence and childhood. And every mammal that we come across, that I can think of anyway, has this moment of play. Because essentially underneath everything, we like play. We are at our most relaxed and delighted when we are involved in sport or entertainment of some kind. When we are at play, in other words, either play of sport or other things. So there's a fundamental nature within all of us that says, let us play. And in order to do that, to play perpetually, we have to shift our understanding. And instead of this mithya being an obstacle for us, we can see it as something that facilitates our freedom. Perfection, by its nature, must be freedom, equivalent to freedom. The Taittiriya Upanishad points out this nature of bliss and relates the macrocosmic bliss or the larger bliss with the smaller bliss, the bliss of normal common joy, and says, by the way, we can intensify this. Now, when we do that, what happens to the hormonal structure of the body? What happens to the body, and what happens to the brain? The brain is the body, it's part of the body. It's a part of the body, it's an organic thing. When you fast for a prolonged period of time, the Upanishads give that example, you see. So, recite some verses, okay, to a student. Then, all right, now you can fast. Now, please, after fasting, recite the same verses. Oh, I forgot them. Yeah, why? Well, because clearly the brain requires nourishment, requires food, like every other organ of the body. So if it is an instrument, if we are not the brain, if we're not the body, if we're not the mind, then we're in a controlling position, not just an observing position, but a controlling position, and that requires asserting a will. People say, change your thinking, and people say, okay, but how do I do it? Like saying, please walk. Yeah, but how do I do it? Well, you put one leg in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, then the other one. You've done it before. It's easy, it's natural, but it requires a will. And if you don't have the will and the resolve, then you'll stand static in a complaining mood. I'm not going anywhere, nothing's happening. I'm repeating my mantra, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but nothing's moving, nothing's happening. Well, do you have a will to do it? And in the beginning, of course, in spiritual practice, you may have to struggle a little bit. You may have to force the mind a little bit. Just as if you want to exercise the body and you haven't done it for some time and you don't feel inclined to do it because not exercising is much more convenient for you, and you put excuses, I don't have the time, or this or that, the other, but if you have a will to do it, then you'll do it, There are people who say, I would want to give up smoking, but it's my only pleasure. In other words, you put an excuse in the way, see. But the advantage of exercising every day, by the way, is that you'll die healthier. Well, that's a kind of skeptical point of view. So where does this will come from? It comes from a sense of independence and assertion of a dimension of the mind which says, I will do something. And what will be consequence of bliss? Every single cell of the body, every single molecule will vibrate with this thought. Thought is everything. The mind is everything. The mind is the obstacle. The mind is the revealer too. And we have to arrange our thought in such a way that we take advantage of the sequence of cause and effect, so that the cause of everything, of our whole life, our environment, of our present and our future, is how did we think? How did we feel? How did the psyche perform? And that the causal relationship of that is you make your own world. Now, how can you persuade somebody about that? Well, pain is a good persuader, no doubt. So, all we have to do basically for the body, as I've said many times, is make sure that it is clean. And we have to take measures to do that. And once we do that, even at the beginning, if it's a struggle, and do it consistently, and do it with regular practice, it becomes a habit. And the advantage of having a habit is it becomes easy and natural. We don't have to struggle against it. It becomes second nature. Every child may have struggled against brushing the teeth or something when they were 4 or 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. But they were made to do it, And now if you ask them, please don't do it, they'll object. And they will tell their own children, please do this. So it's the same thing with the mind. The mind has to be cultivated. And the mind is something like a vacillating, is a very, very good example, is the phrase of the monkey mind, as we've said so many times before. But how do we control it? I prefer maybe to think of it like a horse or some kind of animal like that can be used and ridden. But how do we persuade a horse that you put a weight on its back and it feels it and it's unnatural to it? By careful training. And part of the training is being persuasive. And part of that technique could well be, like many saints have done, talking to it. Or my mind, come on, let's go to a better place. Let's go to a more blissful place. Why don't we do that? Why do you want to be stuck in the mire, in a complaining mood, or whatever it is? So, undesirable qualities will possess the mind if we're not careful. Hatred, delusion, sorrow, revulsion, all of these kinds of things. Many more of these will sway the mind. If we talk about the mythology of, let's say, Navaratri or something like that, or the Chandi, then we have to understand that all the demons are there. They're your own mind. All the Puranas, these ancient stories, will tell us about that. There are 5 topics that every mythological story will tell. And I suppose the first 2 are creation or evolution of the universe. There's an argument reading creation and evolution is a false one. You use either term for the same thing. And also its dissolution. There's 2 of them. Or in other words, withdrawal to its source. And that implies sustenance, of course, as well. So philosophy puts this matter in the form of comprehensive questions that we can address it to the mind. What is that from which the universe springs? This is the Upanishadic question. What sustains and penetrates it? Into what and how is it withdrawn at the end? So we can present a greater stress on the concept of evolution if we want to do that, because we can see everywhere a change from a lesser quality or a lesser value to a higher one. And so we can put the question, another one, what guides all beings? Is there something that can guide all beings towards what? Towards their perfection, and embraces them in the perfect state. Perfect state will have none of these things, none of these cause and effect things. So people say, oh, what about karma? What about my karma? Well, forget about karma. The Atman has no karma. Karma only belongs to the mistake. I am the body-mind complex. I am so-and-so. This is my passport identity. It only applies to that. So we don't worry about that. Don't inquire, is it my karma now? Why am I like this? Was it my bad karma? What did I do? Endless analysis. Forget it. What is this present moment? In this present moment, you'll find perfection and fulfillment. And that means no hormonal deficiencies. That means no physical deficiencies. No mental deficiencies either. Only my handling of it. So there could be some physical discrepancies. But we say from our yogic psychology that if you change your thinking, then you can change everything that is a product of the thought, namely the whole physical world, not just the body, but the whole extension of the environment that the body sits in. So if you want a good life, then visualization. Positive thinkers have caught hold of this from the 1960s. Whatever you want, visualize it. Visualize it in glorious technicolor and great detail. Visualize its result. And take it as a given, since the machinery of the cosmic result was put into motion. simply by your thought. You sustain your thought. That's good enough. A raised hand is there. Very good. Go ahead.
Your comment that, visualize it, that it's
Yes.
already given.
Yes.
But like people like me who visualize it, for them, it's like, oh, it's not there yet, and they just got up in the loop. But then you also say, just like, for example, your technique, write a letter and forget about it.
Yes.
And I feel that that works so well.
Yes.
So I'm confused. Like, loads of people, like, oh, you can't just leave it. Like, you have to do it daily until it happens and all. But sometimes I feel when I do that, I just get into such desperation mode. So
Yes.
I'm confused what to do.
Yeah. So when you visualize it in Gross Technicolor, when you visualize every detail of it, and you do it, and of course, if you do it on a daily basis, it becomes more real. But it's not a request. A request comes with a doubt. So please, I put my application in, and then you check. Oh, I never got a reply. Did you receive my application? And so it goes on like that, you see. So that would have no use. That's counterproductive. Jesus puts it like this, you see, believe that it's already accomplished. Whatever thing you want, he's talking about faith. Then he says, believe that it's already accomplished. He gives a formula, he gives the recipe. You see, if you post a letter in the postbox, then my old example, you don't go 5 minutes later and say, oh, I wondered if did the postman come. It said 5 o'clock. It's 2 minutes to 5 and he's not here. And then you wait for the postman. Then you say, I don't know if this is a reliable postman. Let me follow him and make sure he puts it in the right sorting place. And then, of course, if you're an island, you have no option. It's airmail. There's no other option. Then you go on the airplane and accompany the letter. What use is that? So you post it once with full faith and you leave it. Already accomplished. Already accomplished because it's been put into the machinery. That's it, finished. Every request I want is accompanied by I haven't got. So you put that, and that is faith in the divine, because what we call the cosmic arrangement, cosmic mind, is none other than the Supreme. Then, of course, in terms of attention, it's an instrumentation we use. The body is also Brahman. Mind is also Brahman. Attention is also Brahman. Everything is around is Brahman. The environment is Brahman. The house in which you live is Brahman. The cup and plate you use is Brahman. But do we know it or understand it? Well, it requires this purification of the mind, and then the totality gets revealed. At the moment, we are inevitably living in a very limited space. We can only see in the front. We don't have eyes at the back of the head. No matter how much the mother says to the child, well, beware, I can see you, I have eyes at the back of my head. That phrase is there. Well, you don't. And so we are all dimensionally deficient. And when attention shifts, it can only shift to one thing. Other things may also be present. That's called awareness. But when we shift our attention in a conscious, deliberate way and shift it to a higher way, to a higher dimension, every time we get the opportunity, every second is such an opportunity. Learn the art of doing that. Like kicking a ball up in the air. Well, learn to keep it going. When it comes down, kick it up again. Be alert. You know, there's a game where people throw a ball suddenly. There's a group of people. And the person who drops it should not drop it, so they can punch it back. They can keep it going. You can do the same thing with a balloon. Keep it going, keep it going. Nobody allows it to fall on the ground. So we play a game like that on the basis that sport is very natural to us, and the basis that our nature is blissful. Anandu brahmate vyajnanat anandat hiya eva kalva imani bhutani jenti. This is the beginning of a section in the Taittiriya Upanishad on bliss. Your nature is bliss. That's why we need to play a game. That's why we have a very long childhood, very long teenagehood. We enjoy the play. Every foal that is born to to a horse, gets up, struggles miraculously, doesn't know, please give me the handbook on how to walk, struggles a bit, shakes a little bit, and then starts galloping a little bit, maybe stumbling a little bit, and then delightfully frolics. Lambs frolic. See, every animal wants to play. Cats want to play. Dogs want to play. So with that, all right, we use that facility to play. We become playful. We use a playful mood. So he knew that Brahman is bliss. What is Brahman? Bliss. Why would we say bliss? Because we have to use some kind of term for that which cannot be described, that which is non-dual. Non-dual means no space enters it, no time enters it. It can't admit any real framework or anything like that. It cannot be cut into pieces. It must be undisturbed harmony. It must be peace. It must be joy. It must also be knowledge, and therefore incapable of being upset or destroyed beyond recall at will. It must be existence, existence without birth, or unasked bringing together of parts. No, it must also be without death. It must be inevitable. It must have no separation of parts. It's difficult to find a single term or concept for such a thing, you see, if we want to express it fully. And so what did the ancient sages do? Well, they described it variously. Sat vipra bahuda valanti. Truth is one, but wise people call it variously. So they use terms such as infinite, ananta, bliss, ananda, the self, Atman, or simply God. And some texts have called it indescribable and thinking. One text, of course, this Taittiriya Upanishad will speak about it in the form of an affirmation. They'll say, it is from bliss that all beings arise. It is bliss that sustains them. It's again bliss into which they finally enter. This is the passage I'm quoting. Well, Shankaracharya makes a comment which is very useful. He says, in effect, he says, well, this bliss which is non-dual is lodged in every heart. This bliss, the all-comprehensive truth called Brahman, he who realizes it becomes Brahman in it. And in ancient technical language, it becomes one with it. So these are useful things. And we have to cultivate these ideas on the habit level by asserting such scriptural passages as this. Truly, beings here are born from bliss. When born, they live by bliss. Into bliss, when departing, they enter. And then, step by step. For example, St. Augustine, in Christianity, describes the highest state as one of joy. Now, St. Augustine, critics will say, is well known for being a pessimist, or seems to be like that, because he's emphasizing that we are at fault, sin, and so on and so forth, simply because that was his own experience. And he became converted, his heart was converted. He says, the highest spiritual state of the soul in this life consists in the vision and contemplation of truth, wherein are joys and the full enjoyment of the highest and truest good, and a breath of serenity and eternity. So the grades of existence and of value correspond, so that the class which has the lowest degree of reality in the existential sense has the lowest degree of value. So behind all our growth is the perfection of ourselves, which animates it. So we do that through carefully noticing where our attention stands at any point in time, and directing it properly towards Brahman, which culminates in a realization that everything is Brahman, including attention, including mind, including body, including the eyes and the ears and the objects that contact them, and the flow of knowledge that comes from it, and the analysis of the mind that appreciates it, and the response given. And so all of that is Brahman. So we have to steer our attention in such a way that that becomes a living reality for us. And it's a game without pause to discover our own bliss in the blissful moment of it. Initially, it becomes a motivating factor. We use that anyway for our visualization because we have the capacity for creative imagination. Much of our imagination is dedicated toward things which are against us, not in our favor, and culminate in a complaining mood. Poor me, poor me, poor me. No, what about what a glory, what a glory, what a glory, what a beauty everywhere. Did I notice it? I said to a person yesterday, did you see the clouds? I said, yes, I saw the clouds. So what? No. Did you sit? Did you appreciate the beauty, the movement in it? Did you see, did you feel prana in it? Did you catch a blissful moment? And if you didn't, then you missed an opportunity to elevate the mind. Constantly do it, elevate the mind. Try to do that. We all have moments where we get distracted from it. It's all right. You catch it and bring it back. Systematically, in a friendly, compassionate way, do it. Even a moment where you react to somebody in a difficult way, in a seemingly non-compassionate way, because you saw things through the individuality of things. You recognize it. Oh, I see. I never saw Brahman there. I never saw the fullness there. How will I see the fullness? How can I imagine it? You have the grace which comes as a gift to imagine, to make an image of everything, to have an artist's eye, an eye for beauty and goodness and truth. You have the capacity to see as if you were painting a picture or a portrait of something, noticing every detail with great love and appreciation. When you do that in an intense way, it becomes meditation. When you do that in a way where you realize that something has to change and something new can come in, then you can do it as a visualization. And do it, writing it down helps, drawing a picture of it helps. All of this helps. Simply constructing an image of the result helps. And it helps indiscriminately, but try to make it useful, a useful visualization, something that has a spirit of benefit for everyone. Supposing I want to make a garden that, a big botanical garden where people can come and enjoy all kinds of species of flowers. How did many of the botanical gardens arise? Because somebody traveled in many different places, saw exotic flora and fauna, and said, I want other people to enjoy this. So with that desire, with that wish, with that will, he moves to the next stage, which is resolve. What is the resolve? Well, I can picture in my mind's eye how beneficial this will be. Then he starts thinking, how many acres will I require? Not where will I get it? How many acres will I require? How many people will come and visit? What will delight people the most? Will children be educated by it? Will people simply come and walk, even though they may not understand the labels on trees or what have you? Still, they'll enjoy the beauty of nature, and that will make them delighted and peaceful. A Sunday afternoon or something, strolling in the sunlight and just enjoying nature, which immediately has for us a calming effect, an effect where we are able to forget any difficulties and problems that may arise in our microcosmic world. And we see a broader context, a more profound context. As soon as we catch a glimpse of that, we are steering the mind or the attention toward the Supreme Brahman. As soon as we are doing that. So, what will happen to a person who thinks in this way? Somebody will offer him a piece of land. Some unexpected people who are experiencing gardening and will come. Seeds will arrive. Earth-moving machinery will come. Municipal approval, say, for a piece of land will be there. All of these kinds of things will come by themselves. Why? Because you have, through the power of visualization, mobilized the cosmic mind, which is cosmic life also, cosmic prana, cosmic energy, and that mobilizes all the necessary components. And what will happen? After some years possibly of development and so on, all the green lights being shown, a delightful botanical garden is made for the delight of everybody. There are many philanthropists who've done this process. And don't worry, who will give you land? Where will the seeds come from? As soon as you're doing that, you block it. You leave it to the divine. The divine will do it. All you have to do is respond. So what was your role? Your role was an architectural visualizer. Finished. After that, gardeners were there. You not being a gardener, other gardeners will come. You not being experienced in seed cultivation and greenhouses, that will come. Irrigation people will come. Ponds will be created. And so it goes on. And there'll be a response from the divine in the form of people coming to visit. Leave it there. But visualize it as strongly as you can. Clarify what you want. Then it comes to you. Don't ask when. That will be a blocking mechanism. Well, I don't know if I answered your questions. Maybe I can get some feedback on it.
Yes, you did, Swamiji. Thank you so much.
All right, good.
Swamiji, I understand that everything is Brahman in the sense that, yes, the body is Brahman, the mind is Brahman, the attention is Brahman. But when Shankaracharya does this process of I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not this, I am not that, in that process, can we also say that I am not the attention that is probing everywhere?
Yes, I'm not the attention. If I was the attention, how can I probe? You see, it's not the attention that probes, it's me that probes the attention, that uses the attention as a probe. Of course, the attention's nature will be such that it'll wander in different ways everywhere, like every creature who has this absolute power of attention. I can't think of any creature that doesn't have it. It comes even in the bacteria as a form of awareness. The bacteria is clearly aware of its environment. The bacteria is clearly aware of its community, of its community, and of being part of that. Because if you destroy bacteria, the whole community collapses and reemerges. So whatever you can think of, I think it was Georgiana who sent us this beautiful, beautiful musical performance, if you will, of a mushroom, you see. Every creature is sentient. Where is the sentiency? Its sentiency comes from Brahman. Now, naturally, I'm not the attention. But Shankaracharya doesn't leave it as neti-neti, by the way. Shankaracharya is looking at it from the relative point of view. His grand guru is looking at it, Gaudapada is looking at it from the absolute point of view. So because of that, Shankaracharya is also composing beautiful hymns. He's composing the whole Sundara Lahari to the Divine Mother. He's composing, hymns to Govinda, Bhaja Govindam, and so on. He's composing hymns to Shiva, see. Shambho Mahadev. So and in all of the monasteries that he establishes, in the four quarters of India, as it were, he is not saying don't do any ritual. He's saying don't do any worship, continue the worship, but all the time bear in mind that this is with the view of this non-dualism, with the view of that. So neti, yes, that has to be applied in some way, but the other side of neti will be the assertion. You're that, you're that, you're that. It's not just you're not that. So everything is that, including the attention, but in the relative world, yes, I'm not the thing which is subject to, which is an object, and yet at the end of the day, all of the objects disappear and dissolve into Brahman. So when you understand you say, I understand the principle, everything is Brahman. Yes, now you need to start knowing it. There's a difference. You gotta understand the concept of it, fine. But then we still have to live in a relative world. And keep at the back of my mind constantly this non-dual principle. And we can access it immediately. But when a so-called difficulty arises, then we can resort to a point of poise within us. Even if it's for a moment, that stabilizes us. So, in the midst of all kinds of turmoil, we at least have the access to that inner world. There is a hymn that I know from my childhood, and it puts this Atman in the form of as sweet sacrament, the sweet sacrament divine. Here in thy earthly home, around thy lowly shrine, with suppliant hearts we come. See? And where restless yearnings cease is another phrase that is used. See? So that's it's something that we can resort to at any given moment. We can have the facility to stand in this calm, non-dual position. That's the advantage of Vedanta. And the ultimate tool we can have to use is non-dualism. But we can use it as a tool. We can also use dualism as a tool. We can also use Vishishtadvaita as a tool. And we can use Advaita as a tool. Advaita is the multi-purpose tool we can use. But other tools are there also. The beauty about Vedanta is we can use any range of tools we choose at any given moment. Let's choose the most appropriate one we can. All right. Are there any more questions?
Swamiji, just to be clear, ultimately, if we find ourselves in a position where we're asking or we're requesting in our daily prayer, that there's a requirement for an understanding that we can control with the mind, we can control the thought process and direct the thought, use it as a probe, but that has to come with faith and as well. So there has to be a deep faith in the divine Lord, a deep faith that that there is the probe that we can steer, but that has to come with faith that probing will present a result, and the required result, and the result that is due to us.
When you get in a motor car, I assume you have faith that it will move as you want to make it move.
Yes, of course, yeah. Yeah. But the two have to come hand in hand. So there also has to be an element of, because if we're asking every day in prayer, it indicates that there's a desperation.
Yes, which is another way of saying lack of faith.
Yeah, so the two have to come together in order to create the result, I'm assuming.
Yes, so let me pray to Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whoever I can think of, Saraswati, etc., just in case. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's called the prayer of insurance policy.
Yes, which isn't really prayer then.
Not at all. No.
Yeah,
No. But having said that, it's as a beginning position, yes, that's okay.
yeah,
Child will ask that. A child will ask his mother, oh, can I have this? Can I have that? From time to time, no harm. But from the position of I am a child and the divine father, mother, whatever it is, can supply it. But if you are a devotee, by the way, in its true sense, then you won't ask for that purely on the basis, Lord, I don't want to bother you. So you do everything, please.
so that brings us back to the point that you frequently come from, which is everything is here now.
Yes.
So give thanks, be grateful for everything is present. Everything that you need in this moment is here right now.
Yes. Not my phrase. Jesus says the lilies of the field are clothed and the birds of the air are fed. Why should we worry about it? Now, of course, you may be a little skeptical and say, yes, but what about people who are in dire circumstances? What about people who are in a war zone or in a refugee camp or something like that? But the principle still applies, you see. And of course, when we have a prayer with the spirit of generosity, we take into account those people also. Every Hindu prayer does it, May all beings be happy. May all beings have providence coming their way in abundance. Not just me, but everyone, the totality. Every meditation should start off with a spirit of generosity like that. Well, we can leave it like that, I suppose, unless there are any further questions which where you feel I may not have clarified fully.
That was wonderful, Swamiji.
Well, I have a small addendum that came to me. Actually, it came. I've had it for a long time, but I recently discovered it by shuffling through some papers. You see, and it's a discussion. It's a dialogue between a customer and a tech support. You get the idea? It says, "I've decided to install love. Can you guide me through the process?" And the tech support says, "Yes, sir, ma'am. How can I help you?" The customer says, "Well, after much consideration, I've decided to install love. Can you guide me through the process?" "Yes, I can help you. Are you ready to proceed?" "Well, I'm not very technical, but I think I'm ready. What do I do first?" And the tech support says, "Well, the first step is to open your heart. Have you located your heart?" And the customer says, "Well, yes, but there are several other programs running now. Is it okay to install love while they're running?" And the reply comes, "Well, what programs are running, ma'am?" "Well, let's see. I have past hurt, low self-esteem, grudge, and resentment running right now." And the tech support says, "Well, no problem. Love will gradually erase past hurt from your operating system. It may remain in your permanent memory, but it will no longer disrupt other programs. Love will eventually override low self-esteem with a module of its own called high self-esteem. However, you have to completely turn off grudge and resentment. Those programs prevent love from being properly installed. Can you turn those off, ma'am?" And the customer says, "Oh, I don't know how to turn them off. Can you tell me how?" With pleasure. Go to your start menu and invoke forgiveness. Do this as many times as necessary until grudge and resentment have completely erased. "Oh, okay, done. Love has started installing itself. Is that normal?" And the tech support says, "Yes, but remember, that you have only the base program. You need to begin connecting to other hearts in order to get the upgrades. Oops, I have an error message already. It says, error, program not running on external components. What should I do? Don't worry, ma'am. It means that the love program is set up to run on internal hearts, but has not yet been run on your heart. In non-technical terms, it simply means you have to love yourself before you can love others. So what should I do? Well, can you pull down self-acceptance, then click on the following files: forgive self, realize your worth, and acknowledge your limitations. Okay, done. Now copy them to the My Heart directory. The systems will overwrite any other things. I don't think it was a complete thing, but I've just finished it off at the end. All right. Okay. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. All right. We call it a day. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
That was very beautiful.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.